Hey runner, Coach Kyle here, and today I'm going to go through a few things I learned while training for the Boston Marathon with an infant and with an injury. My goal with this video is that you learn something that you can apply to your own running. If you have any thoughts, questions, or experiences related to anything I talk about, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. We're going to go through my friends and family tracking my race, totally redoing my strength training, me getting hurt, training with a baby, and traveling with a baby. So let's get into it, starting with training and traveling with a kid. One of the biggest excuses we had about not having a kid before having a kid is the "but I love to travel" excuse. And Boston was our first trip with Quincy. We did a 2-week house sit in Albuquerque already since then, and it's fine. And traveling with a kid is great. Everything just takes a little longer, but like I said, it's all just a-okay. You just learn to go with the flow, which is also what I learned when it comes to training with a baby. Up until October 22nd of 2021, my wife and I lived a pretty carefree existence, both here at home, basically no commitments aside from work. And then Quincy popped out of Desi into my arms and everything changed. Since we're both here caring for him at home, there's no dropping him off at daycare every day, no running from work over lunch. It was all pretty much, running around his nap, his sleep schedule basically. The biggest changes I made were early long runs when he was still asleep, and sometimes after dark evening runs after he went to bed. And in both cases, the hardest part was really just getting started. But I was always pleasantly surprised that whether it was a 5 a.m. alarm or a 7 p.m. start, when I had wished I would have gone to group run at 5:30, the run always went great. I had to go with the flow a little bit. And I learned that time of the day matters less than being willing and able to, like I said, go with the flow. And aside from modifying my training, I also heavily modified my training volume as well. Where this time around, I didn't nearly train as much or as hard as I would have in the past for future marathon buildups. Fewer workouts, about half the weekly mileage. Instead of doing 2 double days a week, I took 2 full days off. And you know what? It was fine. I maybe ran a little slower than I would have if I would have been running 90-mile weeks, but I really don't think it impacted me that much. The lesson is that I think I got about 95% of the results from about 50% of the mileage commitment. And speaking of less mileage, let's talk about taking time off due to injury. I had this strange misstep off a curb when my calf seized up. I took a week off. I did a couple walk jogs. And honestly, I don't think the end result of my Boston Marathon finish changed that much. My goal for the race didn't change. The outcome didn't change before or after my injury. And the lesson here emphasizes something I tell my clients all the time, and it's that the best runners in the world are also the best at not running. I gave my calf the time and the opportunity to recover, and I was able to get back into jogging and full training far sooner than I honestly initially thought or hoped. And during this decrease in my training volume, I doubled down on my strength training. And that was totally different type of strength training than I had ever done before. In the past, my strength routines have been based primarily on the work of Jay Johnson, very hip, glute, core focused work. But this time around, I honestly did almost zero of that. And instead I focused on a strength program called the Sling Method. And it utilizes resistance bands to reproduce in a way that mimics the running gait very specifically. It looks to replicate how you move when you run, using as much like horizontal forces rather than using weights or gravity to do non-running specific strength in a downward vertical manner. Paul from the Sling Method is kind of, he likes to say, you don't see runners doing squats while out during a marathon, so why are you doing squats while training for a marathon? And he has a point. And while I can't say for sure, since I'm no double-blind, peer-reviewed study, but I do believe that this protocol, this Sling Method, was instrumental in my racing success at Boston. And I'm not quite ready to, write off traditional running strength work yet. I still have all my clients do these hip, glute, core focused routines, plyometrics, etc. But, maybe I would have ran a little faster with that layered on top of the sling method, but maybe not. And I'm very open to new ideas. And so it's something I am experimenting with. And finally, I want to talk about people tracking my run. And, Desi shared my tracking info for the marathon in a family Facebook group. I had so many people care and track and text me, congratulate me, and that honestly really surprised me. I didn't think anybody would care, and I had a lot of people, tell me good job and that they were following me during the race and stuff like that. And it kind of clicked for me after Boston when a training partner of mine was doing a local 120-mile FKT, and during it, I was riding in the car with Desi, tracking Paul on my phone, and I was like, oh, is this kind of how people felt of me doing Boston? And she was like, yeah, Kyle. And so it kind of clicked a little bit that maybe people do care a little bit about my running, especially when I do something special like the Boston Marathon. Yeah, so maybe people care a little bit about your running than you might think, or maybe not. So if you want to learn more about training with a baby, like I talked about earlier, check out this video with a bunch of helpful stroller tips and tricks that I think you'll find helpful, informative, and enjoyable as well.